Welcome to the Explainer. So today we are tackling a question that, on the surface, seems pretty simple, but it has been tripping up students, pilots, and even, engineers for more than 100 years. How does a wing actually create lift?
And this confusion, it's captured perfectly in this Reddit post from a pilot. I mean, if pilots are debating this, you know it's complicated. This gets to the very heart of flight, and believe me, the answer is way more fascinating and way more debated than you probably think. Okay, let's just dive right in. Now, before we can really unravel the great lift controversy, we've got to get on the same page. We need to lock in the 4 fundamental forces that are always at play on any aircraft that's up in the air. First up, the absolute start of our show today, lift. This is that upward force, mostly coming from the wings, that gets the plane off the ground and, keeps it there. Fighting against lift, you've always got weight. This is just gravity, plain and simple, pulling down on everything. The plane, the fuel, the people, all of it, always trying to drag it back to Earth. Then you have thrust. This is the forward push, the raw power from the engines that gets the whole thing moving through the air. And finally, pushing back against that thrust is drag. You can think of it like air friction. As the plane plows forward, the air pushes back. And here's the key. For a plane to just cruise along nice and level, all 4 of these forces have to be in a perfect, delicate balance. All right, with the basics out of the way, let's get to the fun part. It's time to tackle the biggest, most common myth about lift. This is almost certainly the one you learned in school, and we need to just toss it out because, well, it's flat out wrong. So it's called the equal transit theory. The story goes like this. A little particle of air hits the front of the wing and splits up. One half goes over the longer curved top and the other half goes along the shorter flat bottom. And the theory says they have to meet up at the back at the exact same time. It sounds logical, right? But the reality is the air on top moves way, way faster than it would need to just to catch up. It's not even close. And I love this comment from Lampshader on Reddit because it just nails the problem with that idea. I mean, how would the air particle know? There's no physical law that says air molecules have a reunion scheduled at the back of the wing. It's just not a thing. And if you poke at this theory just a little bit, it completely falls apart. It doesn't explain how a stunt plane with perfectly symmetrical wings can generate lift, or how any plane can fly upside down. And heck, if it were true, then a flat board angled into the wind shouldn't create lift. But if you've ever stuck your hand out of a moving car window, you know it absolutely does. Okay, so if the most popular explanation is totally wrong, then what's the right one? Well, this is where things get really interesting. The real answer isn't just one simple theory. It's actually 2 completely different and equally correct ways of looking at the exact same event. So let's get ready for the main event. It's Team Newton versus Team Bernoulli. Team Newton says a wing works because it's forcing a massive amount of air downwards. And for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So you push air down, the wing gets pushed up. Simple. Team Bernoulli, on the other hand, is all about pressure. It says the faster moving air over the top of the wing creates a low pressure zone, and the higher pressure air below then pushes the wing up into that low pressure area. But here's the most important thing to understand, the crucial point. They are not competing against each other. As this user, Beardopia, points out, they're both totally correct mathematically. You can use Newton's laws to calculate all of the lift, or you can use Bernoulli's principle to calculate all of the lift, and you will get the exact same number. And this comment just says it perfectly. One isn't the cause and the other the effect. They are tied together. They happen at the same time. You literally can't have one without the other. Turning the air downwards is what creates the pressure difference. They are 2 sides of the very same aerodynamic coin. So you might be asking, why is this so confusing in the first place? Well, to get the whole complete picture, we have to go a little bit deeper into the physics. This is kind of where the engineers live. First, let's put a name to that air being pushed down. It's called downwash. If you've ever seen a video of a plane in a wind tunnel with smoke, you can physically see the air being bent downwards after it passes the wing. That's Newton's action right there in front of your eyes. Now, to make all the tough math easier, engineers use a pretty abstract idea called circulation. Just try to imagine the airflow as one big vortex spinning around the wing. It's really just a powerful mathematical shortcut that lets them calculate lift without ever having to argue about Newton versus Bernoulli. And then there's something called the Kutta condition. This is basically a rule that says air has to flow off the sharp back edge of a wing smoothly.
It sounds minor, but this rule is what lets physicists pick the single correct airflow pattern from a whole bunch of theoretical possibilities. It's absolutely critical to getting the calculations right. And this comment just gets to the heart of it all with a little bit of humor, right? Bernoulli's principle is really just a statement about the conservation of energy. And Newton's laws? That's just conservation of momentum. These aren't some weird special rules for airplanes. They are the most basic, fundamental laws of how our universe works, which, when you think about it, is what makes it all so cool. Okay, so after all that, let's bring it home. What is the best, most intuitive, and most complete way to really wrap your head around how a wing creates lift? Let's put all the pieces together. Here's the best way to think about it. Step 1, the wing, because of its angle and its shape, shoves a huge amount of air downwards. That's the Newton part. Step 2, for the air to make that turn downwards, the air flowing over the top has to speed up. Step 3, that faster moving air creates an area of lower pressure above the wing. That's the Bernoulli part. And step 4, it's the combination of the downward push and that pressure difference that creates lift. They happen together as one single process. So that classic curved airfoil shape isn't some magical object. It's just the most efficient design humans have come up with to do one specific job: deflect air downwards as smoothly as possible to get the most lift for the least amount of drag. That's it. And, in the end, maybe we just have to be okay with the complexity, like this Reddit user says. Any super simple one-sentence explanation for lift is probably going to be wrong or at least incomplete. The reality of how fluids like air actually behave is just, well, it's not simple. Which really just leaves us with one last thought to chew on. If something we see all the time, like an airplane flying over our heads, is based on this much complexity and debate, what other simple things in our daily lives are we totally taking for granted, hiding their own beautifully complicated secrets right there in plain sight?